Women who dated older men as teenagers that now realize they were predators. What's your story? My first boyfriend was 22 years old. I was probably 13 to 14 something. He was very controlling. The kind that tells me I'm not allowed to say no if he asks anything. He used to ignore me for days and not reply to me, and very often made me send him nudes, and I really hated it. But I wasn't allowed to refuse, or he would go find a girl who would satisfy him, a true woman. And I didn't see anything wrong at the time with this, but at least I didn't have sex with him even though he suggested that. Now I'm 21, and when I look back and think about it, I just feel so much shame and burden, and just ask myself why and wonder didn't he see that I was a freaking child. And I get filled with sadness. And I feel like that happening in such a young age really contributed to things I have done and hate. All I can take from this is to be careful in the future and make sure it won't happen to my own kids. Now I'm 21, and when I look back and think about it, I just feel so much shame and burden, and just ask myself why and wonder didn't he see that I was a freaking child. And I get filled with sadness. And I feel like that happening in such a young age really contributed to things I have done and hate. All I can take from this is to be careful in the future and make sure it won't happen to my own kids. Of course he could see you were a child. I wish there was something I could say to take those feelings of shame and burden from you. All I can say is you were just a kid, and all the shame and burden should be on his shoulders, not yours. I hope one day you can forgive yourself for anything you've done that you hate. None of it defines you. I think you're awesome, and your kids, or future kids, if you're not a parent yet, are super lucky to have you looking out for them. Thank you so much for this. I never got to talk to someone about this and how I feel. I try my best to forgive myself, and it's not really easy, but I try. As a kid I had a friend who babysat a 30-35-year-old guy's young kids when she was 12 to 13. He, the dad guy, started to romance her and convinced her they were dating, but people just wouldn't understand. I do remember asking her if she had had sex with him and what it was like. She said it didn't do anything for her, but I do it because he likes it. At the time I thought she was really mature and knew what she wanted in life, and parents would just try and boss her around. She moved after a couple years of being with him, so it fizzled out. She is married with her own kids now, and we aren't friends anymore. But as an adult I wish I could go back and explain to us that she was being abused, that it was predatory, and get the guy put in prison. I don't know the guy's name to look up whether he ever got caught. Edit BC clarify and typo. This is the reason my parents would absolutely not allow me to work as a babysitter when I was a teenager. I always thought they were being overprotective, but who knows, I read too many stories like these now. My girlfriend in high school babysat a lot, and her parents always insisted she be allowed to bring me or some other friend along. We all thought it was ridiculous too. I enjoyed it because her parents' friends that she babysat for were super well off, and it was always luxurious homes, mountain cabins, or beach houses for the weekend, and I got to play video games, spend hours with my GF, and eat pizza. Looking back it's good her parents insisted on that, because I can't imagine sending your 17-year-old daughter 4 hours away by herself to someone else's house for a weekend now. I was 15 and definitely didn't understand a thing about love or danger. I found out that he was married and had a child because he literally disappeared, and I was trying to find out what happened. OMG, that's crazy. I'm sorry you got preyed on like that. I'll put it my experience in here while I'm at it. I was 14. He was 21, and I thought it was cool that he had a car and could buy alcohol. Luckily I didn't interact with this person for more than a few months. It's tucked up how common this kind of thing actually is. I remember my best friend dated a 21-year-old guy when we were both 14. Back then I felt a little grossed out, but honestly I was mostly jealous. He was handsome-ish and gave her the attention she craved, but eventually she figured out that he was only using her for sex. Then he left her for a 13-year-old. It only dawned on me years later just how ducked up all of this actually was. He was a straight-up pedophile, and we all thought he was so cool. That's terrible. I hope your friend is okay. I was 15 with a 21-year-old. He hung around youth group and made all us younger girls feel special with his attention. I was shy and quiet, didn't stand out much, but obviously wanted the special attention that all the prettier, peppier girls got. He wasn't interested until he found out my mom worked nights and I was home alone. We ended up getting into a pretty heated argument and split when, 2 weeks in, I still hadn't let him come over because I was terrified of what my mom would do if she knew I'd had anyone over while she was gone. Glad you stood up to him, but kudos to your mom for raising you right. I was 11 and he was 23. We didn't date. He had a girlfriend, but he would sex me and send me nudes. Eventually I realized it was strange and blocked him. Didn't tell anyone about it. I sometimes wonder if it's impacted me more than I would care to admit. I had a similar thing. He was 19 and I was 11. And he would always ask me for nudes, but I never sent them cause I knew it was wrong deep down. I finally got the courage to tell my friends a little while ago. Also happy cake day, edit. Thank you all so much for the upvotes and the kindness. I really hope everyone who has been through a similar situation is doing good. My best friend in elementary school lost her virginity to her neighbor. He was 19 and she was 11. I thought she was really cool and mature. I remember kind of having an epiphany a few years down the road like, yikes. That dude was an actual rapist. Her dad took custody from her absentee mother later the next summer and moved her to the other side of the country. This was pre-social media / common cell phone ownership and I never heard from her again. Lena, if you're out there, I really hope things turned out for you. Your dad might have saved your life. I was 13 with a 22-year-old boyfriend. He made me feel special. Grown up, my friends were all jealous. TBH, he was hot. A predator but a solid 10/10. We met on Sparkslive, those were the days, and started a relationship. I was in my ugly duckling phase so was drawn into it by the attention. No boys my own age seemed interested in me. I was bullied a bit, and it was nice for a good looking older boy to think I was pretty. He slowly pressured me into sex. Started with pushing me into sexual acts on webcam, to oral, then full sex. He always insisted on filming everything because he loved me so much he wanted to only use our videos as porn. What I wasn't aware of was the fact he was showing all his friends, and they made bets on how quickly he could get me to do something else. Whenever I pushed back he always said, if I wanted to date a man I needed to act like a woman, otherwise he would find a girl more willing to have a proper relationship with him. He then tried to pressure me into sleeping with his friends. Started with a threesome, him included. Then one night he asked me to just sleep with his friend. I saw his friend give him money, which is when I realized this whole thing was a lie and left. Wow. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I hope you're doing well now. Oh yeah, I'm fine now. Went through a rough patch after this where I relied on sex to prove my self-worth, but snapped out of that at 15 and realized I needed help. A few years of therapy later I was back on track. Deleted. Holy shit. I thought you were going to say your ex-boyfriend found out and talked sense into you because he was worried. But he pulled one of the biggest dick moves I've ever heard. Both of those guys sucked. Same. My heart shattered when I started reading what he did instead. It's insane how there's parts of the world, entire communities that still don't acknowledge what a predator taking advantage of a child is. A predator taking advantage of a child. Kids can be stupid, but adults still blaming children for being groomed and abused is sick and disgusting. My mother found older boys to introduce me to when I was 15 over 16. She would take me to coffee shops or sneak me into bars and charm her way with men in their 20s, only to introduce them to me. I would date them, and she would get chores done around the house that she needed. Painted kitchen, fixed cabinets, roof work, stuff like that. I remember my best friend's mom trying to warn me and explain to me why it was wrong of my mother to let her 15-year-old date 25-year-olds. But I just thought I was really cool. It wasn't until one of them found me online and reached out a few years ago that I realized what she'd actually been doing all that time. And of course, none of these guys knew what the duck they were doing, so the house looked like shit anyways. That is so ducked up. Yeah. but she laughed any time I would bring it up to her. It was like a sport to her. I'm from a third world country where it is normal for 15 to 16-year-old girls to date guys in their early to late 20s. Especially in the 90s when chat rooms became available thanks to the internet. At 13 to 14 years old with my girlfriends we would meet up with 18 to 19-year-old boys, which now I know it was not a good idea, but I didn't know any better back then. Until I moved to a different country where I learned that there were strict laws in place for adults dating / having sex with teenagers. I was too stupid to understand why my mom was so upset when at 14 I had a date and got picked up in a car by a 24-year-old who bought me ice cream at MC Donald's, but luckily he was very nice and took me home after. Can't say I wasn't pressured into doing sexual stuff at very young age by much older men, but unfortunately that was the norm. Which country was it? Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.